Hi guys, can you all hear me? I need to stand here because I have notes and my emotions are still pretty raw, and so I'm going to rely upon my notes because what I have to say is so important. I want to make sure that my words are correct. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Leanne Hull, and like Freddie said, I'm otherwise known as Andy's mom. On December 11th, 2012, my beautiful son, Andy Hull, who was a junior here at O'Connor, committed suicide. It's hard enough losing someone that you love, but it's even worse when it's suicide. Never in my life did I think that I'd be standing here talking to a group of young people about this subject, let alone how it's affected me and so many of Andy's friends. I'm surrounded here by some of Andy's special friends who have held my hand and who have been able to hold theirs through this as well. I want to share the last 6 months with you in terms of related to a movie, because most of you can relate to a movie, we all like going to movies, but I want you to know one thing. This is a true story. This isn't fiction. In our lives, we all have a starring role, and we have supporting roles. Andy had a starring role, plus he had a supporting role in so many other people's lives, in his friends, in mine, in his father's, in his grandmother's, in his sister, in his brothers. There was so much ahead for Andy. Baseball, prom, graduation, college, marriage, babies. Besides these things in his life, there were a lot of events in my life and in his friends, and his participation was really important. For example, who are you going to take a picture of sleeping in class now? Who are you going to look for to bring the big gulp in the back of the room? Are you going to miss seeing him pull in his blue truck, rocking out to country music? Or all the goofy faces that Andy made that made us all laugh? We all counted on him for certain roles. We counted on him to be there. 6 months ago, Andy started taking Accutane, which is a prescription drug for acne, and thus began a turn of events, which led us to his death. It's such a terrible word, but I want you to hear it. I want you to hear the finality and the devastation of death. This drug caused Andy to view his movie differently. Like so many other drugs, marijuana, alcohol, spice, it changed his perception on certain things that were occurring in his life. He wasn't able to think clearly. He wasn't able to focus. It was causing him to fail some of his grades. He'd never done that before. These were some of the warning signs that Freddie was speaking about. In addition, he was sad, like Freddie, about the status of a relationship. Probably every one of us in here can relate to a failure or a loss like this. But how we deal with these disappointments in life is what makes our movie a box office hit or a flop. You see, every movie has its ups and downs. If I were a gambler, which I'm not, the odds are that with 2,600 students here at this school, that many of you are experiencing something that's causing you pain or worry. Maybe you're worried you won't pass your finals. Maybe you're worried you're not going to graduate. Maybe no one asked you to prom. Maybe you wrecked the car. What I would give to get a phone call from Andy telling you that he wrecked the car, or that it was failing language arts, or that he'd given up 10 runs in a game game that he pitched. Such small problems compared to death. The times that you're growing up in right now are so different than mine. We didn't have computers, cell phones, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and it sounds like the Dark Ages. I'm not saying that these things are either good or bad. Actually, I like a lot of these forms of media because they allow me to keep in touch with my other sons. I have 2 boys in the military. I love being able to communicate with them that way, see pictures of my grandkids. But they can present us with some additional challenges in our lives. For at any given time, when you're right in the middle of a crisis, we can be receiving input from many of these other sources that will cause us difficulty. The question is, what do you do with that input? Do you let it in and listen to it? Or do you keep it out? I wonder right now, just since I've been talking, how many notifications have we all gotten in this room? How many of you just received a mean tweet or a bad Facebook post? What will you do with that information? How will it affect the decisions that you make? You have to be equipped in advance. Otherwise, you're left to ride the social media roller coaster. I'm going to give you some examples of what I mean by being equipped. I'm pretty sure that we can all agree that I'm really sad. So when I first found out about Andy that day, my world felt like it had ended. The first things that people did around me, they handed me a glass of wine to numb the pain. Even in that terrible moment, I know myself well enough, I'm equipped to know that that would be really bad for me. You see, alcohol is a depressant. Even if it felt like it would numb it, I was about as depressed as you could ever get at that moment. So I had enough advanced thinking to know that it would take me to an even lower state of mind, which is despair. That's where the thoughts of suicide come in. At that split second, and that's all it was, a split second of making that decision for myself, I knew that that could be a potentially deadly decision for me. I looked around, surrounded by people at that moment who were crying, and I knew that I mattered. I mattered to my daughter, to my mother, to my grandkids. I knew I mattered to these friends of Andy. They were counting on me to finish my movie. I couldn't forget my supporting role in their movie as well. When I go out to watch Andy's baseball team play baseball, I go prepared. I go equipped because I know that there are going to be moments of happiness and sadness when I'm out there. The music for me is probably like a drug for other people. It is an emotional drug for me. I love music. So when the boys play their walk-up songs, it gets me excited, it pumps me up, and for that moment during the game, I actually feel a reprieve and I can feel moments of happiness. But I'm not foolish enough to know that that will disappear the moment that I start walking off that field. Because you see, I have to walk alone to my truck while everybody else is standing there talking to their kids. And I have to drive that truck home alone without my kid. So I go equipped. What am I going to do when I get in my truck? What music am I going to listen to? Am I going to listen to something that enforces, reaffirms the sadness and despair that I feel? Or am I going to listen to something that encourages me and helps me to be strong and to change my thinking? You see, I have those moments of despair as well that Freddie talked about. But I'm equipped, and I have advanced thinking to be prepared for those moments. I know myself well enough to know how long and what I need to do before I need to change my surroundings, like people or music or location. Even something as innocent as taking a Claritin or a Sudafed for me during allergy season can have disastrous effects on my life. I have to weigh the benefits versus the harmful possibilities. For Andy's situation, the Accutane had that blurring effect, a thought-altering effect for him. Who would have ever thought that a prescription drug or an over-the-counter drug can affect us this deadly? I relate this to emergency preparedness. All of us, we can usually cope with the day-to-day ups and downs, but are we prepared when something really rocks our world and threatens to take us to the depths of hopelessness? These outside influences can definitely affect how we handle our decisions. They're either going to hurt us or they're going to help us, one or the other. You see, for Andy, when he was at his lowest, he allowed one of those forms of communication which hurt him. It affirmed how bad he felt, and it reinforced a bad decision. And the Accutane added to this deadly combination. In a split second, he wasn't prepared to process all of his emotions, compounded by the drug, and then reinforced by these forms of communication, the form of social media. He had a choice to make in that split second. He needed to reach out for help. There were warning signs looking back. He posted some things on Facebook, and he told a couple of friends how bad he felt and what he was thinking about. I want everybody here to know, it is, like Freddie said, nobody's fault what Andy did. Nobody but Andy is responsible for what happened to him. But I want you to hear me. There's no such thing as confidentiality allowed here. Put your friend before the friendship. You have to tell. There's nothing bad enough in your lives, in my life, that can't be worked through. Your movie might have a different ending, but you must finish it. You see, I have to finish my movie even though I can't see what it looks like right now. I thought I knew how the movie was going to end. And at times, the pain seems unbearable. And I can't see the end. But I have to rewrite it now, because I have to finish it. If the only thing that you get from today is by seeing me standing here in the midst of the most unbearable situation that I could have ever thought of, and that I give you hope that you can work through your challenges, then I've succeeded in my message. You see, because we all need each other. I've needed these friends of Andy's. I've needed their parents. I've needed the administrators here. I've needed the coaches. And they need me. They need to see me finish my movie. Each and every one of us have a role to play. I want to leave you with the most important thing that I can tell you here today. Whether you know it or not, you matter. You matter to your parents. You matter to your friends. You matter to your teachers, to the counselors, to the administrators, to the coaches. The list could go on. And maybe you don't feel like there's a big list, but I can tell you there is at least one person in your life that you matter to, and they're counting on